what do you think has been your experience in being both these sides, being a creative and then coming on this side?
We're operating in a system that is like not that is not kind to creating art and being organic and collaborative. Sometimes as an artist, you're really just vulnerable to other institutions or forces out there, and you're waiting for somebody to take a chance on you, and that can be incredibly defeating sometimes. Who can't relate to acknowledging, sort of getting so turned into yourself and not trusting and realizing that these obstacles when everyone else in their like telescoped out view can see oh, it's just so easy. We also try to very much encourage the idea that disliking something is just as valuable as liking a piece of art.
I've loved Brea Gallery's work for far too long. We've been following your work, and Made in California. Every year, I think I've been following that call. You've been doing it for a long time, I think. I've seen it for the couple of years now.
Yes, this year was our 38th year. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
it's great. It's a real flagship exhibit. So we're very proud of it.
Amazing. So, Katie, where do we start? Tell me something about you, who you are, how did you get to Brea, California, arts? How has this manifested into your life?
Well, I grew up here in Southern California, and I've been doing arts and in the arts community for about 25 years now. I've studied, I've gone to school, I've moved away from Southern California, I moved back. I got my MFA, and I moved back to this region, and then I started working at the gallery, and that was right before the pandemic had started. So we sort of struggled through that, and it's been a fantastic experience. I love this facility. I love this place. I love this community. So it feels like being a part of this gallery is a really great way to give back to the people in this area. I felt compelled um, to give something to this art community after I went and moved away, went to school, and then decided to come back.
What brought you? I ask this question a lot, and I've always been interested in how this dynamic works because I often ask people who are into the the religious how do I call it? Are not artists, let's say, anything but not artists. Have they ever considered, to pursue art as a career, what their experience has been, and vice versa? From what I know, that you did pursue MFA, so you did think of being an artist. How has your experience shaped you, being a gallery director? One, and what brought you on this side then?
I think what really sort of drew me to being a creator was the idea of storytelling and wanting to create stories and share stories, and then also create platforms to lift others' voices and their own stories up. So that's really sort of what drew me to studying formally. I actually have a background in performance and theater.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so what I love about working in a visual art space is that you still maintain some of those aspects of live performance. You're still creating a narrative in which people are experiencing in a way that you have sort of established for them, and they're still taking away something very personal and subjective from the event. So that's really sort of what drew me to this. And I started working in this facility, and I've worked my way up. I just became director in the last year, and what being a director of a space allows me to do is it sort of expand on some of those. Expand on some of those ideas in a larger way. So now that encompasses not just the exhibition itself, but programming, outreach to the community. I get to be an advocate to the community in terms of like what we're having, and then the voices that we're able to then support. So being in this position has allowed me to do what I love, but on a bigger scale, I suppose. So that makes sense.
Yeah. What do you think was the hardest thing while you were yourself pursuing, uh, performance arts? I'm sure I think something that I really feel really helps me in navigating these two roles that I do, being an artist and running this platform and business. My own experiences as an artist really keep informing um, how what direction I want to take, let's say with Arts to Hearts, because we all it becomes like a driving fuel because I can firsthand experience a lot of shortcomings, and I feel like okay, I really need this, and that actually started with how Arts to Hearts worked. I really needed this, and I was like, okay, probably let me try something about this. Did you feel what did you feel were the hardest things for you while you were growing as a performance artist?
Gosh, that's a really great question. I think one of the hardest things as an artist is really feeling like what you're doing matters, right? And putting it out there matters. And it obviously does, but sometimes when you get in your head and the critic
Oh,
and the
we
self
all
doubt
think like that.
creeps in, that could be a huge obstacle. um, and sometimes it's hard. I mean, um, you mentioned having to really take the initiative to make some of this stuff happen for you because you saw a gap um, in the industry, and so you've stepped up and you've made that happen because you were able to recognize that being on the other side of it, which I think is completely admirable and really amazing. And you're right. Sometimes as an artist, you're really just vulnerable to other institutions or forces out there. And you're waiting for somebody to take a chance on you. Um, and that can be incredibly defeating sometimes.
Now, when I think about this, um, how I would use a metaphor for this situation, something that just came to me is like if I'm sitting in the car and there's a lot of fog and there's like I can see the windshield, but it's too unclear. It's too unclear for me to drive now. So I'm waiting for someone. It's foggy and there are so many tiny droplets that I can't see through the mirror or the screen. But anyone who's on the outside really knows that I need to go. Let's say my stop is Brea Gallery City. I know that where I'm standing, it's just I have to go straight down the road, take a left, then a right, and I'll reach there. But everybody on the third view knows that. But when I'm sitting, I don't know how do I know how I have, that's so strange because I know I have to go straight, left, and all of that. But I do not have the confidence because I'm so unclear. I don't know how to take the next step. That's how I feel sometimes this situation does feel.
That is a fantastic analogy. Absolutely. I mean, who can't relate to, acknowledging, sort of getting so turned into yourself and not trusting and realizing that these obstacles when everyone else in their like telescoped out view can see, oh, it's just so easy. It's just all
And
you
you
gotta
know
do is
what?
go forward.
I'm going to ask, my editor is going to put this right in front of the episode. But
It's great.
that's strange. That's strange because I feel like, and that does happen. As I'd like to admit to it. There's no shame in it. It's so easy for me to look at someone else's work, their career, and tell them, okay, you know what? You have to go there, go straight, do this, do that, and you'll be done. I can give you for sure. Sure, this is it's not. It's
Mhm.
not such a hard process. It's really taking those steps. But when I do apply those on myself, I feel I feel like I'm again back in that seat. Now I have to drive slowly, and there's so many questions. Do I want to take a stop? Do I like where I am? Am I wearing good clothes? It's so self-conscious. It's like,
Sure.
well, I don't know. Am I going to the right destination? Is Brea Gallery, will they like how I've come? Like, there's so many things that we think about, and I feel like, okay, maybe if I stand here, somebody will find me, think, okay, you are stuck. Let me take sit. Let me, why don't you come and sit in my car and I'll take you there? Which really, sadly, doesn't happen for a lot of us.
Right. Right. Like, why doesn't somebody come and wipe off this windshield? Right. And
Even
then,
that's not going to happen.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. If somebody could just make this easier for me, then
Yeah,
it would happen. Yeah, no, for sure. I think that that's a very real, a, a very real sort of emotional tug, right? Well, I get too wrapped up in all of the obstacles, and all I can think about is everything that could go wrong, right? Like all of the things that may happen if I start driving the car, as opposed to just taking just trusting.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
absolutely.
And it's also like, it's like we're all stuck. I don't remember the sci-fi. I love sci-fi. And I was watching this movie like, so it's like also I'm going so deep. Oh my God, I'm nerding out on this. It's like we're all artists, all of us are in those cars, and we're all feeling stuck. And when we look at each other, and we think, okay, yeah, really, we really can't find our way outside, and be like, see, even she's sitting here, even he's sitting here, even, and we're all together, and only very few who find the courage to roll down the windows and mark their way, and they go ahead. And it's so psychological. I feel the success of an artist is so psychological, because it really, the biggest thing is our own mind barriers, which are not easy. And I'm not saying that they are irrelevant, because they're very much relevant. It's not that they don't count or we just cook them up. It really does. Whatever we think about the hardships and what holds us back.
And I think there's also like there's this expectation that if you're working as an artist that you don't ask questions. You don't ask questions, you don't ask for help, you don't ask for feedback, you don't share resources, you're supposed to have it figured out. You're supposed to have you're supposed to have your own path and figure out success on your own. When in reality, being curious and asking questions and collaborating is really at the heart of the work that we do. So, but it can be scary. It can be really scary to reach out and say, "Oh, gosh, you know what? I would love to know more about the work that you're doing, or if you have any feedback, or if you have thoughts, or if you have some sort of instructions or thoughts or tips." It's really difficult. I don't think people feel comfortable doing that. So,
Absolutely. You could tell me something. When you started your journey, on being the gallery side, let's also talk about the before and after. I love this question. Okay, interesting. When I was not on the other side, oh my God, I had so many belief systems. Like, a lot of system which still stands true. I'm not saying that it doesn't. People they're hard to approach, they're rude, closed, or they're making money off artists. All of those, a million things that we think about. Slowly and steadily, when I started to actually step into the world myself like that, and I started to understand, oh my God, if they wouldn't do this, this wouldn't be possible. If they wouldn't do this, oh my God, that isn't. And now I do understand both the sides. Like, I've started to understand all these years, like, okay, you know what, this really makes sense. Had I not stepped here, I would have never been able to figure out and really justify it for me that, oh, yes, it really, because for some reason, artists, I really do feel that I work in a few different industries by now. And I feel like for some reason, artists do feel like they've always been profited off. Um, and in that, sometimes they feel more of that in regular sense, versus you know the other organizations, galleries, or all of those things, they're also simple businesses who are really just supporting artists as facilitating business, but trying to make on their own as well. what do you think has been your experience in being both these sides, being a creative and then coming on this side? How has those things that you thought first and then we flipped and you're like, oh my God, how wrong was I? Tell me if there have been any experiences like that.
I'm probably very similar to yours in the sense that, yes, um, art art should be free. Everybody should be able to experience it. Artists should be paid living wages. Everybody should have a piece of original art in their home. I definitely, still at the core of me believe that it's so difficult to make art under capitalism. It's just, you know what I mean? We're operating in a system that is like not, that is not kind to creating art and being organic and collaborative and also living. So I think that's like a really difficult lesson to learn, and then to realize that's what it takes in order to navigate it, right? Is to acknowledge that we exist in this structure that is impossible to avoid. um I agree with you. I don't like the idea that there are spaces out there that make money off of artists, but there are certain things that go into maintaining a facility, and it's not maybe in profit, but it is like an aspect of what happens in this business. um it's a really sort of unfortunate side, and at the heart of what we do here at this facility and this organization is to center the artists, as well as the community, but at the same time we're still trying to keep the
Lights on.
keep the doors open. Yeah.
Yeah, I do
Exactly.
understand that.
Exactly. And if I had the magic wand to wave, it really would be free all of the time for everyone, with finding collectors for these artists so they are living um the life and getting paid for the labor in a way that they deserve. Um yeah. And we're a community gallery. We are subsidized by the government.
Tell me, how does that work? I'm sure a lot of people are curious. Can you help me? How a regular gallery, for everyone who's listening, how a regular gallery is different, how a commercial gallery versus a government supported gallery, how are they different?
Oh yeah, so again, we're subsidized by the government, so we are a community municipal gallery. So we are not a commercial gallery in the sense that we have a pool of collectors, and we do not have our own collection of work. We're about 6,500 square feet. We have 4 rotating exhibits a year, and outside of Made in California, which is a juried exhibit, we have 3 other invitational or collaborative partnership shows. So that's how we operate our schedule. We are technically city employees. Our very small little staff are city employees, and because of that, our focus really is to keep it on the art experience for visitors, and maintaining really great partnerships with artists themselves. So our focus isn't to sell, it isn't to promote as much it is to create experiences for our citizens. Back when this facility was built, which was 1980, was built into City Hall, specifically as a gallery, really because I think at the time leadership wanted access for citizens to see contemporary art without having to drive to maybe a major metropolis to experience it, really to bring it here. And so, like I said, we do 4 exhibits a year. It's all contemporary art.
Is it California or US, or is it like all kinds? I know your California show is California targeted, but what about the rest of the work that you show?
The rest of the exhibits are, a lot of them are regional, but we do feature artists from all over the country. So our current show has a couple of non-regional artists. The show that we did this summer was a partnership with a development organization in Los Angeles. So all the artists were from Los Angeles. But yeah, it differs. So it's all over the country. And again, it's a way that we were able to give back to the community to see work that we may not be able to see in our little town. So otherwise. So we have so you can see we have a couple of different priorities being a space, and we're walking a real fine balance between pushing the envelope and really providing the community what it is that they want. Yeah.
How do you think? I grew up in a small town. In India, we don't have as much of a gallery culture as you'd see in the West. We're a lot more crafts based, artisan based versus gallery based. So I've grown up a lot around the arts, crafts, but not in the way that you'd really, I think, maybe probably you would have had. Um, I'm trying to understand how much do you think is a role of a space like that in a community, bringing art to the people, exposing them to these ideas, making a own. I think it's not only a place of looking at art, but it's also connection, conversation, experience. How do you think and community? I think one of the most important community in both ends. I feel like a creative community because these places become like they're having these not only fine art, but let's say someone who wants to write about art, someone who wants to talk about art, someone who's a performance artist, someone who's a writer. So really one center can bring so many creative people together, but also for other people who may not be a creator themselves, but really like to take a part in that conversation, really like to look at it. How do you think these roles are? How important these roles are for a city, a region, and how does it really help in the development of the city and people?
Oh, I think they're vital. I think they're absolutely vital. Um, we're really lucky. I think our community looks to us to provide these experiences and to start these conversations. I think because we've been here as long as we have, over 40 years, um, we've gained a certain amount of authority in the community as people are very supportive and they look to us, I think, with a certain amount of respect and also for leadership, which is great because I think um, there are certainly places that are resistant to that. So I think that I feel very grateful. Um, but yeah, I think that they are. I think this sort of relationship, this like dynamic of a community and a space, um, I think is so instrumental in how people think about our culture and our um, in our relationships to each other. A lot of the people that come through this space, the majority of the people that come through this space are not artists, and they are not maybe wouldn't consider themselves to be artistic people. Uh, they are residents, they're citizens. They've come to experience it. They've come to see what sort of topics artists are like currently exploring. And so a lot of them don't have fine art degrees, and a lot of them don't have experience in creating art themselves. So they're really looking to us to be sort of the leaders in that. And we try to make it so that this space is really accessible. So if you really don't know anything about art and you've wandered in
Yes,
because
that
you
is one
just
of the most
happened to
important
wander
things.
in,
Yes.
yes, there's some additional context. There's some sort of interactive aspect of it, right? So people can come in and enjoy, maybe just reflect on the experience that they've had, and they walk away maybe with a sort of a different idea of what maybe they thought quote unquote real art was. Right. We also try to very much encourage the idea that disliking something is just as valuable as liking a
As
piece of
liking
art.
something. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also having, I think, really, I think in general to the arts, not only supporting artists, and something we also really focus on, is also educating people about what the arts is. I think for a very long time, it was something that was restricted to only people who had wealth, only for the aristocratic, for people who were on the top shelf. Even not, I'm not only talking about um, buying, but also looking at it. It was felt like there was a right way to do something, a right way to talk about it, look at it, go to a gallery. A lot of people have been so resistant, and that's really not helping anyone. If you're able to create an hospitable environment for all kinds of people who may or may not know about art, but like a market, if you've seen a market and wandered off, there's no hesitation. Like um, I can go and see something. Like even I think there's such a huge support for artists if everybody feels free to just look at it and not be afraid, oh, I don't know if I'm good, I don't know how to judge this, if it's good enough, I don't know, am I good enough, do I have the skill, never seen an art, or like those things. If you're able to foster an environment in city, in our countries, in our regions, wherever we are, where more and more people become comfortable looking at art, talking about it, knowing that there's no right or wrong way. It's really, we're only contributing to a better world for all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely agreed. And I think once people sort of get all over the the initial like intimidation of like walking into a space, and then sort of owning whatever experience that they have, um, I think you're right. I think people will realize that there's like so much to be taken away, and you want to like you always want people to start young so that they develop an appreciation early. um, going to the theater, going to a museum, or going to an art gallery. um, I think we also expect that people will grow in adulthood, and then sort of wake up one day and say,
Yeah,
yes, like I I would like to be an appreciator of the theater, right? And then I will just go and I will have a great experience. Well, there's so much to that when if you get a little bit of experience when you're younger, you realize that these spaces are for you, right? These spaces belong to you, and that there's that you can throw rules out because it's really about a sense of community and belonging. But I don't think people I don't think people know that,
yeah,
as
I
adults.
agree. I agree. And it's again, I think you really put it out there. Um, if you're as a young child, let's say I didn't grow up in a city where we didn't have museums, we didn't have galleries or any of those things. So for a very long time, I never knew like, oh, I'm not I'm not an art. And for me, there was like a very typical image of what an art collector looks like, what an art, okay, I may have bought a few pieces here and there, but for me, in the beginning, art collection meant that I had to spend uh, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and like, acquire art and like, oh, be this. And then I started to slowly, I was like, oh my God, I've been collecting for far too long, I thought. And that is because we didn't know that what really collecting was like in a very layman manner, and that of course galleries are just one extension of doing it, but let's say community centers and places where cafes where like in all our own ways wherever our resources are, we're looking at art and you're really enjoying it, you're looking at it like, but because of a lack of these institutions, we always thought, okay, I don't know how to approach this place. And for that, it always became a block as an adult to even go there. Like, I didn't go to a gallery for a really long time in my own adulthood because I thought I'm not the right audience for them. And oh my God, I was the best audience. Like I was really at it. But also, I think um, on the same side, if we invest in our own communities from today, and probably even if we have the eye or whatever, maybe we do not have the income, we do not have the resources at the moment, but it's also great that we are so much investing in ourselves that once we do have that income, or affordability from small to whatever, we're able to give back in that. It's like nurturing before expecting.
Right. Right, absolutely. Well, and Charuka, what do you think was like what how did your own experience change? Um what was maybe the obstacle and then how did you get over that?
With 100% honesty, I still feel, um, from what I've seen, from where I've been so far, I still feel these places lack a huge community sense. Still feel that, specifically from the part of world I am in. Um, I still feel they're still centered towards a very specific kind of audience, and in that cases, it does eliminate a lot of people who could potentially become a really good part of the community, but because they do not see themselves in that landscape, it's just they do not feel comfortable. I have seen around, like, I have friends and families who have, let's say, who even have the resources, but they will never step into a gallery. And if I bring a work to them and I tell them, okay, or if I take them to a studio, or and they get, like, they completely get on off that space, because an artist studio is very inviting. It's very raw. It's not like a stage setup. It's not like everybody's drinking champagne and, like, all of that. And I've seen so many people feel so at home at it, and feel so approachable. So I still feel like the gallery space, in general, is specifically the commercial galleries, are still very unapproachable to the audiences. Um, they're not so. I feel like the public galleries, on the contrary, um, they really are approachable, specifically in the parts of India. Like, anybody can walk in, they're beautiful, you can see. But I feel like they do not, they haven't, either they don't have enough budgets, or they haven't really, in India specifically, focused so much on community and outreach, that a lot of people don't even know that something like this exists. Like, so, if I don't know, you've heard about Taj Mahal, I'm sure. So I've been born and brought up in India, city of Taj, and there's in Taj Mahal there's a little gallery if you go, and if you go there, you'll see story of Agra, so how Taj Mahal was built, early sketches, Mumtaz, Shah Jahan. Like, I love going to Taj Mahal. I love going to the gallery. I truly, like, I every time I go, I will go to the gallery, even though they're the same collection. It's like they have a little small space of the monument itself. But it's just, whenever I go, I look at something differently. I connect to the story, I connect to my own roots. And I just feel like both of these roles have so many, like, commercial galleries have a lot of value to offer, but they feel less approachable, versus public galleries has so much to offer, but um, there's so mu- there's so much lack of awareness for people that they don't even know, like, they can go there. And something that's been happening in India right now in Delhi. So we have these modern art gallery spaces. These are traditional public galleries, really good ones, and people were not as aware of it. So what they've done is, recently they've opened a lot of great restaurants around the theme of India and experience, and they have a little bit of music and things like that. And a lot of people have started to pour in. It's like lit up in the night, and it's like now people have a reason to go to a gallery, because they're coming here and they're coming together. So I think more experiences like these can really make it approachable for everybody. And I really feel like the world is so much a better place if we all look at art. I truly believe that.
I do too. I completely agree. And thank you so much for being very vulnerable about sharing that there are still spaces that you are, maybe hesitant to go to. And I feel the same way. I think there are definitely galleries where, and I'm all, I work in this business and there are places where it seems very intimidating to step inside. And, there's no information and they're purposely sort of keeping that back from you. And, um, yeah, and it feels like you're a little bit of an interloper when you go to these places, and that can be really difficult. And if that's your only experience walking into a space that shows contemporary art, then of course you're not going to want to go back. And then to your other point about some of these places are so they don't have maybe the reach that they should. And I know, again, on the flip side of the coin is I'm working within a government institution, and it's very difficult to get the arts funded. They are always the last to get funded and the first to get cut. So um, you know I think your point about the importance of providing these experiences to a community of people, um, that is that is what I repeat on a daily basis to my bosses, to to the council, to commission, to everybody who wants us to continue to sell and provide value for what we do. And it can be very difficult if they don't see a direct revenue source that corresponds, right? So it's an indirect benefit to our community. And that's why you have to have a true believer.
I also did, uh, think about this for a very long time. When I started publishing books in magazines, I thought, oh my God, I don't know, we're not selling someone's work yet. I'm not providing enough value, and that, as someone who's really purpose driven, for me, the work that I do, truly, I believe in it. For me, it really matters if I'm able to support whatever way I am to the artist. And it really held me back for a very long time because I felt like, oh, I'm not making sales. Because for a very long time, we mark progress with conversion, like in very business terms. Versus, I quickly realized, 3 years now in the business, I've realized the publications we print, the opportunities we create, you know, if I had that at that point, our distribution is to galleries and curators that I don't think at any point of even my own career I would have been able to send myself. Like, not only, I'm not talking about just general distribution of people, approach, and all of that, which is extremely valuable when people look at your work. We're marketing you, your work is being seen in all parts of the world, being published in a book. But very targetedly, every book gets goes to galleries and curators from our end. We make that sure that every time we publish a book, we send it to our network. And I realized, like, how big is that? Because when I would have started, or even today, I would be like, if you're sending my work to, let's say, this gallery or Kristen or someone, and like, oh my God, even if my work here as a mediator is like, I am we're curating your work, we're publishing your work, and we're putting it out there. Now, then your work does the work. Like, you put a show, now your work does the work. Similarly, we've done the work, we've published your work, we've made a beautiful book, we've done everything we could. And now we've sent it to the people that really, you know, can also help you further. Now they do their work and your work does the work. And then I quickly realized, like, you know what? How wrong was I thinking? The value that we have today, like we have been able to give awards, we give people mentorship calls, like with Ashley, we just did an award where Ashley Longshore was giving mentors to our awardees. And so, like, making these partnerships, and like, and I started to understand, like, you know what, they may not I started to really count it like this. I may be able to help someone make a sale of, let's say, $1,000, and they make one big chunk of it. But the value that we're giving today is way more than 1,000, because really helping you develop those skills, with these community efforts, and with, with people who've really done it, be it a gallery, be it Ashley, be it someone on other side of the business, and making sure that whenever you're in a book or whatever things we're curating, we take it to a network of people that you would want to go to any day. That is like selling 10,000, 20,000, or whatever. Like, that's really so much in the long run that I can't put a price on now. And that really flipped that switch for me on my own. I think unless you don't value what you do, you really can't advocate for it.
Absolutely. And they're so lucky that they have you being an advocate, because you are a believer. A lot of people think that the art industry needs more business people. They need more business minded people. They need more corporate structures. But the reality is, you have to find people that believe in what it is, that are in it for the long haul, that make the investment because they know it'll pay off, and because there's a certain amount of gratitude that they get from it. And I think arts people need to be making art decisions for art spaces and for artists.
Yes, absolutely. I second that.
Okay, good. Yeah, but I think that when you have people like you who are there because you believe in it and because you are invested in it, you're committed to make those decisions for people in like the best and most like pure sense of integrity way. Um, that means that it's, you're in it for the long haul, you're in it for the commitment, whereas I don't think there, people who look at it with a business sense, they don't see they don't see the benefits.
I love the word that we've been talking about right now these days is social enterprise, which is we did a last episode, which was very simple. You do a business, we are also a business. We think about salaries, we think about rents, we think about projections, we think about all of those things because that's exactly what a business does. You have to make sure that you're making enough money so that you can survive and all of those things. But I think what really changes is if you have a heart in your right place. Social enterprise makes it a business with intent, a business with purpose, where you're so driven with your purpose that you're like with us, at least I can speak for myself. Every action I take, we really had a bad experience recently in one of our projects. And I really didn't like that collaboration, how that things were happening. And there was little voice in my head, and I felt like, okay, you know what? If I give in to this, this is not fair to our artists. This is not fair to our artists. This is not fair to our artists. And I knew that, um, I knew that if I really did not say, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. My job was done. We did what we needed to do, but I knew that certain things that were happening, that my conscience just didn't allow that. It wasn't fair to a lot of people, and for me, I feel every artist there's a submission fee they pay to to be juried. I know I take it as a great sense of responsibility to me that I need to make sure that we work so much, so hard. We make sure that every pie of that it's worth it. Like even if they're not selected, we try to give them anything, but really make sure that it helps them some way. And it really, like, I think the idea of that social enterprise really, it's like putting you in check. Really, does it? Of course, I'm a business. Sure, it makes business sense, but is it really aligning with my own purpose and values? And if it's not, I really need to talk about it. And we really moved forward, and I spoke about it. And at the end, we really solved it. But in hindsight, I would have really messed it up. But we were able to handle it, and I realized, okay, you know what? I, at least in hearts of hearts, felt like I really fought for the cause, and I really was able to make a difference, even if nobody cares, nobody knows. I know, I care. That's it. That's what matters.
Absolutely, that's what matters. Yes, and I agree. Same way with our jury show. It's like you want to make sure that every person feels like they've been seen and they've been heard, and we really sort of throw out any ego with with an exhibit like that, right? We want to make sure that it's artist centered, that people feel like they get value out of it, about participating in it, and also just that they've submitted to it. I always make sure that we keep a resource of people that did not get accepted, but like have fantastic art and it was just not maybe the right fit, that we can always go back to them. And we've featured many artists that way. We've grown relationships that way because we weren't able to get them in maybe the juried show, but they were invited the next year to something. So
Amazing. Thank you so much, Katie. I can't believe it's been 45 minutes already, 43 minutes. And I know it's late for you. I know I've been holding you back, but thank you so much. I really did have a great conversation.
oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's always such a great pleasure to talk with somebody who is also so committed, and to know that you're out there and you're doing all the good that you are.
Thank you so much. But I'll let you go. Before, do you have something that you want anyone who's listening to this episode? Do you want to redirect them where they can find you? Where can they support you? If there's an upcoming project that you'd like to share with us, make sure you do that.
Absolutely. Anybody that wants to know more about our space, go to breaartgallery.com. Follow us on Instagram at Brea Gallery. Actually, that's really kind of the best way to build relationships with us. We are starting. We do have an open call right now for our work in Maiden, California for 2024, and you can submit on our website. That is open to any California-based artist. But follow us online just to see what we're doing. Again, that's how we actually see and interact with a lot of artists, locally and internationally. And we have a current exhibit up now called Threads That Bind, which is a fantastic assortment of women fiber artists. And we'll be opening up our next exhibit in January 2024 called Through the Dream House. We haven't even actually officially announced this yet, but it's kind of the January 27th. We'll open up our next exhibit, and that will be an assortment of artists from all over the country. So we're super excited.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I will make sure that we link all of these links in our show notes and a whole synopsis of our own episodes, some highlights, some quotes, and a lot of pictures. So make sure you do visit the show notes and you join us in the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Charuka. Have a great day.